What is up, everyone? Happy Monday. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 173. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Sorry about the little bit of delay in start time. We are literally, I'm sorry, I got to turn the volume off here. Just a couple of minutes past 6 p.m. here on Monday. Thank you for taking the time out of your money to spend it with us during Ginger Runner Live. Exciting show tonight. We do these every once in a while. We talk about doing more often. It is our inspiration and viewer mail episode where we get to share your stories, your experiences, whether it's during races, training, your stories of your journey through running and that sort of thing. It's always great because we get a chance to talk about you guys, read some of your stories, share it with the audience, and inspire others. It turns into this wonderful cyclical journey of inspiration. So tonight we've got lots of viewer mails to read, lots of stuff to catch up on. We're going to talk about GRVR a little bit later in the show. But sit back, relax, grab your beverage. Also, I don't have a beard. I think
there's already a lot. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. We'll talk
Beard
about it during
game
the
is
show.
not on point.
What? Beard game's not on point? It's because it's gone. Welcome to the show. Here we go. Ginger Runner. Yay!
Yay!
Happy Monday, everyone. Very excited for tonight's show. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 173. We're getting up there.
Deb Hammerlin says, new corner? Yes, we're going to move to a new corner in our house every single week.
Episode of Ginger Runner Live, we will be moving to a new set location. We are experimenting for the coming weeks. In fact, we've been experimenting for the last, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks since we moved to our new location in Seattle. You would think that the moving process is quick and easy. It's not, especially when you're trying to settle into a new studio space. It's a bedroom that doesn't have a bed in it. Actually, currently does have a bed in it. My parents stayed over the other night. But we are cordoned off into a corner. And last week, we broadcast from this corner with these curtains pulled behind us. And I think the general comment was it looked like we were in a shower.
Or a hospital.
Or a hospital.
Or a shower in a hospital.
Which is the worst. That's even worse. Probably the cleanest shower. But we changed it up. We pulled the curtains back and we revealed what the actual corner holds. What a boring start to the show, the set. But it will hopefully change a little bit further in the coming weeks. We're not moving anywhere. We'll be using this corner, but we're going to try to, I guess, gussy it up.
Gussy it up? People are talking about how young you look, how baby-faced you are, that people need to card you, and that better be sun-kissed in that orange can that you're drinking from. Young man.
That's got to be sun-kissed? That's brilliant. The fact that you guys think I look 14 and that I need to be ID'd is probably one of the reasons why I shaved.
We did get carded a couple nights ago when we were out.
Washington State is very good about carding everyone. My parents almost got carded, and they're in their 70s. It's up here in the Northwest. It's very much like I gotta card you no matter what. Okay, so before I get too far into the show is inspiration and viewer mail. Over the last few months since our last episode of this is now episode 7 of viewer mail and inspiration. Right after episode 6, we got a great big influx of incredible stories and journeys and inspiration from you, the viewers. Every time we do one of these episodes, we get this wonderful surprise-like influx of mails from you guys. And this is one of the reasons we like to do these shows so, I guess, frequently. So we've got a lot to go through tonight. So I definitely don't want to hesitate. Before we really get rolling into the show, as with all of the Ginger Runner Lives in July, they are brought to you by one of our viewers, one of our Patreon supporters, Mr. Brian Sands.
Yay!
Which is just awesome to have him week after week come in to the chat room and view the show. He's been a supporter for a long time. And we just added this new tier on Patreon thinking, hey, how can we help benefit maybe those who have small businesses or small brands that they want to help get off the ground and that sort of thing. We can do that. We can use this platform to help share it with you, the audience, basically providing those viewers who want that bit of exposure with that ability to be shouted out and stuff like that to the viewers who actually matter, right? Like the people who can make a difference in some of these small businesses' lives. So just a little bit of story about Brian Sands. I've had the privilege of being able to talk to him for the last few months, month after month since he's been a Patreon supporter. And it's just, I love being able to meet these individuals on a one-on-one basis. And Brian's story is pretty great. Over the last 10 or so years, he's lost 100 pounds. With his running journey, specifically, he's lost 45 pounds. And this fall, he'll be running his very first marathon. So that's what I think is incredible. This guy is an inspiration. He's got a full family. He's got a full-time job. You know, he's busy, but he's still able to make it work. And like his whole health has changed as a result of running and really dedicating a bit, you know, fraction of his life to getting those training runs in. And he has a big training run this weekend. It's his first 21 miler. And I know Brian will be watching either live. He's probably in the chat room. I think he's in the chat room. I just see him right there. So Brian, crush your 21 miler this weekend. It's going to be awesome to catch up with you and maybe next week's show, since it's next week still in July. Math is bad for the Ginger. I think it is. If it is not, regardless, we'll update you on how Brian's run goes.
And this will be Brian's first marathon.
First marathon. So we'll also be sure to update you guys, the live viewers, on how he does. No pressure, Brian. Whatever happens, happens. But enjoy the journey, because we're all going to celebrate once you cross that finish line for your first full marathon. So thank you, Brian, for contributing to the show and helping make it happen week after week. And of course, at the end of the show, I'm actually going to help, or I'm going to shout out all of our top tier Patreon supporters as well. Thank them, because I haven't really done that on the live show. And since this is a inspiration and viewer mail episode, I want to make sure that I recognize that the viewers are the only reason that Ginger Runner and My Long Legs, Kim and her channel, which we're getting the set built and all that good stuff, you are the only reason why we're even able to exist. That's everybody from the dollar contributors all the way up. Dollar level, all the way up. Doesn't matter what level. And we have people that have been jumping around between levels. You know, like 1 month they'll go to the $3 level, the 10, down to the 1. You know, it's all good. It's all relative, but it's all pretty cool. So I'm excited about this episode because we get to share some pretty awesome stories. I am not drinking Sunkist. I'm drinking a local beer.
Might need to see your ID, kiddo.
I don't have it on me. What are you going to do? Knock it out of my hand? Don't knock it out of my hand. Snap.
I think it might have been Raul. I might be wrong, but he said I was a cradle robber.
Cool. Kim is older than me. I am older than she is. Kind of technically a cradle robber. Well, not technically. That's a terrible term if you think about it technically. But Kim is older, so good job. Bye. Okay, so.
And if you guys have as always, if you're new here, we do pull stuff out of the live chat room. So if you guys have questions or comments, please leave them in the chat room as well. So I'll do my best to pull stuff up.
Yeah, I think we're going to get some really great dialogue here in the chat room. These are always really fun shows because we also, if you, for some reason, haven't been able to contribute your story, maybe you want to share it, maybe you just had a race this weekend, let us know in the chat rooms here. Maybe something happened that you'd like to share. I think that would be pretty cool.
Lori Hall in chat room. Oh my God, just tuning in. Ethan looks like a teenager.
It's true. Lori Hall, longtime supporter. I traveled back in time. Actually, I believe someone even called this the time traveling GR Live. You guys keep it coming. I have been feeling old as of late. And part of the reason I wanted to shave the beard is because I just kind of felt a little grungy. Because I'd wake up in the morning and I'd feel the beard and I'd know, well, I don't really have to do anything to it. And there's an element that's pretty great about that. But today I was like, you know what? I haven't shaved in so long. You don't like it. You like the beard.
I like the beard. I'm not saying I don't like your face. I like your face very much.
You only married me for that beard. Basically, you blur out all the skin that's in between it.
When we met, you had no beard.
That's true. I also had earrings.
Now everybody knows.
Well, it's not like they couldn't find out if they really just Google. No, don't, because I don't know. I don't know what you'll see.
Eric Souza in the chat room says, "Go Brian! I've lost 140 pounds over the past 3 years and just finished the San Francisco Marathon on Sunday. You've got this." Nice. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love stories like that because anyone that loses that much weight, whether it's 20 pounds or 120 pounds or 220 pounds, when you lose that, you're losing the weight of a human being. Like, if you think about it, you're losing the weight of a person off your person. And it's mind-blowing. And the body changes, the health changes, the happiness and mental well-being changes are probably the most noticeable of all of them. It's a great thing. It's a fantastic thing. So more stories like that are better.
CTAM79 says, how can you live in Seattle and not feel grungy?
Good one. Good one. I will say it has been sunny every single day that we've been here. We have not had a single day of rain since we've lived in Seattle.
We had one day of rain since we've been here. It was the day before our stuff arrived, and it is that said rain that got our stuff wet.
That's technically true. that technically was one day of rain, but that was before our stuff arrived. So we weren't really moved in. Regardless, we are at almost a Seattle record for most days without rain, which is crazy because we just surpassed the record for most days with rain.
Right.
But we didn't live here then, so I can't say we. I have to say Seattleites and the locals. Okay, so let's start getting into some of the stories here. So many of them are longer, so I also want to make sure that I have time to read some of them. I'm not going to be using last names tonight, obviously, just because those of you who have submitted stories, whether or not you want your last name shared, I just think for privacy reasons that's probably better. So I'll try to just keep it to the first names. And if your story, if I don't get to it tonight, I apologize. We do try to get through as many as possible during these live shows. There are many emails. I have a feeling I'm not even going to get through a fraction of them. So I apologize. We will hold them for the next episode and continue to just kind of go through them as quickly as possible. If you would like to submit your story for a future episode of Inspiration and Viewer Mail, you know how to do that. Just email the gingerrunner at Gmail with the subject line. What is the subject line? Viewer Mail. That's it. Use a subject line, viewer mail. Okay, cool. The first mail tonight comes from Alyssa. Elisa. I'm guessing it's Alyssa. And I like her opening. It's, hi, mile long gingers. I'll take it. I did my first ultra event at the weekend, Race to the Stones. This is off a couple of days ago, by the way. Race to the Stones. It's a 100-kilometer over 2-day event. Every time I started thinking negatively about something, I would try and turn it into a positive. You guys helped me get through a couple hours of rain on the first day. I would tell myself, you guys had to move hundreds of miles to get rain, and here I am covered in this stuff. How lucky am I? And it helped. I have attached my favorite finish line photo with a bit of embellishment by my husband. Congratulations, Alyssa. You completed the 2-day 100-kilometer event, and she submitted this finish line photo, which I thought was hilarious. I don't think she's on the left. That's Mo Farah. But she is on the right. And I'm guessing that's her finish line photo. And the bears that are chasing her, I don't actually think exist over there.
No animals were harmed in the taking of this photo.
Yes, correct. And that, regardless, congratulations, Alyssa. I think that's hilarious. And
I love the photo.
Yeah, the photo's fantastic. So tell your husband, great job. Okay, so tonight's second email. This one, I didn't want to start with it because it's kind of a trigger for me, but I thought it was something definitely worth reading and talking about. This comes from Kobe. Hey, Ethan, first of all, thanks to you and Kim for consistently inspiring content. I have just gotten into trail running over the last year, and your channel has been an endless source of motivation for me. One thing in particular that has recently inspired me, strange as it sounds, is hearing you mention your fear of throwing up on Ginger Runner Live, episode number 161. I don't know how much you have talked about this on other occasions, but I'm very curious to hear about your experiences with this fear as they relate to running and racing ultras. I've suffered from the same phobia all the way since early elementary school. It's 25 now, and it has been definitely a factor in my running, not to mention just day-to-day stress during stomach flu season. I have never actually thrown up from running, but sometimes in races and workouts, I have a really hard time, which causes more nausea and on and on and on to the point of almost being debilitating. It's a little bizarre, and I don't think my running buddies really know what I'm talking about. Have you experienced this? And if so, are there any tricks that you have used to get through mentally in a race? I never considered that any other runners out there might have the same fear as me. Anybody else out there in the community with the same issue? Thanks for all you do. Hope your exciting move is going smoothly. So, Kobe, first of all, I've been open about this conversation. I certainly have a phobia of throwing up. I've had it since I was a kid. I have no shame in talking about it. I just don't like talking about it purely because talking about throwing up makes you think about it, which makes, it's like that endless cycle, which I'm sure, Kobe, you can relate to. Even probably writing that email was difficult. What I've basically done in my mind is decided that my mind is coming up with things to latch onto. In this case, throwing up isn't really a fear of throwing up. It's more like a fear of losing control, because throwing up, stomach flu, that sort of thing, is you have no control over it. It's one of those sensations and illnesses that just like happens. And for the duration of it, you lose control of your body. So when you start to think of it as less about the throwing up and more as a fear of the physiological loss of control, then it becomes a bit more, I guess, easier to handle. So with ultras, one of the reasons I run ultras is because I'm getting face to face with that fear. Because Andy Jones Wilkins, a guest of the show, which might have been episode 161 for what I can remember. It might have been, yeah. It might have been, because we talked a bit about it with him. He always talks about, in an ultra, you're going to throw up. In a 100-miler specifically is what he was referencing. But in a 100-miler, you're going to throw up. This was also talking a bit about Cascade Crest and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I took that information and was like, you know what? Maybe I can use ultras as a way for me to take charge and to kind of conquer that fear that for me has also been a debilitating fear since I was a kid. It's just been there my whole life, and it's stupid. I'm able to step back and go, this is so dumb, but it's the same with anxiety. I deal with anxiety all the time, and you can step back at times and go, this is so dumb. Like, why does this affect me in certain ways? The reality is, sometimes you just can't step out of the fear or the anxiety in the moment. So by running ultras, it allows me to just get right up to that edge, ride it, conquer it, and then I have that kind of, even if it's a temporary duration of time, but I have a duration of time where I feel in charge of it again. And I think that's one of the main reasons I really like ultras is because not just throwing up, but kind of having control over life in a sense. And you get all these incredible moments of joy when you finish an ultra marathon, and success and achievement. And it really does help you feel like you've done something beyond what you ever thought you're capable of. So what are you laughing at?
Elena in the chat room. This is exactly what I want to listen to as I eat dinner.
We're moving on, Elena. We're moving on. That's basically my thing. I think
it's more of a common problem or common phobia than people maybe think it is, because maybe people aren't talking about it as much. And it was an interesting thing to hear from you when we, like, in our early dating years, because I had worked in the medical profession for a decade at that point, and that kind of stuff doesn't faze me at all. And I mean,
you've gotten puker. Yeah, Kim has gotten sick multiple times now.
I got sick after our long run a couple weeks ago.
We're sitting in a parking lot, and Kim had to stop, open the door, and just start puking. And this was after a long run. This is a while after the long run, and also after Lake Sonoma. It sucks for me, but at the same point, I'm not going to sit there and go, Kim, can you please stop puking? Purely out of selfish reasons.
But like, for me, knowing how you feel about it in your phobia, I mean, nobody likes it, but for me, knowing your phobia, like, whenever it's happening, I always feel terrible about it.
I feel much more in control of it now. That's why I'm also able to freely talk about it. When it was at its worst, when I was much younger, probably like 7th or 8th grade, I had a really hard time talking to anyone other than family or close friends about it because I was embarrassed. And now there's a lot of movement to take stigma away from mental illness and things that affect people. And one, I want to talk about the fear of throwing up, because it's a mental thing. And a lot of people have phobias of like spiders and heights. And these are all very similar things that they just manifest themselves in different ways. But also anxiety. So anxiety for me is something that I love talking about. I hate talking about, but I love talking about because it usually can reach someone who might also be suffering and not able to talk about it. Because I've been there. I've been to the point where you're not able to address things. You're not able to publicly talk about it. And it's very, very difficult. So by simply removing that stigma and just putting it out there that I suffer from anxiety and I never can predict when it's going to hit, and it can manifest in multiple different ways, that can help someone out there. Sometimes it helps me to talk about it. Sometimes it doesn't. So that's pretty much it. And, I think all of us deal with some sort of mental block at some point in our life, whether it could be 20 years or 30 years. It could be endless. It could be affecting you day to day. But sometimes it's a temporary thing, and sometimes it comes in waves. So maybe this will help someone out there just by knowing it exists. I deal with it. And there are a lot of viewers who deal with it, and maybe they're not ready to talk about it publicly, but they've reached out, and I know that a lot of viewers do. Should we move on?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
always open to talk about it. If you guys have any additional questions about that kind of thing, we can always talk about that. We can always dedicate an episode of Ginger Runner Live also to mental wellness and stuff like that. I've talked about it on multiple episodes, but never dedicated a full episode to it. Could be helpful. All right. Thank you, Kobe. Moving on. Gabe. All right. Here's a bit of a long one. Hey, Ethan, Kim, and Gus. This story is a bit old now and long. My apologies in advance, but current life circumstances have inspired me to tell it. I don't have many friends or family who are runners, so I guess I've been waiting for some folks who could appreciate it. First, for some background, I started running a bit in college, but mostly as a means to get a bit healthier. It was generally sporadic and almost always on a treadmill. Life always somehow got in the way of making it a bit more consistent part of my life. I'm also someone who has long dealt with anxiety and mountains of self-doubt, but I use the term dealt with loosely as I can't say I was particularly good at handling it. One summer, I upped my dedication to getting in shape, and the miles slowly started to build up. I slowly started to realize how therapeutic running could be, and after learning a friend of mine had previously run one, the small seed of one day running a marathon was planted. But at this point, the idea felt more abstract and far away. Unfortunately, my same cycle repeated itself. As I let life get in the way, and as school started back up, my running fell by the wayside. Fast forward a couple of years as I faced the now what questions after graduating. The anxiety issues quickly got worse. Thinking back to the short stints in college, I turned to running. I ever so slowly started to get more and more into it, getting the proper shoes and other gear, poking around online for training tips and bits of motivation. I found your Ginger Runner YouTube channel, starting with the Squamish 50-50 and amongst the evergreens. And despite never ever commenting or submitting a question, started feeling like I was actually part of a community. I quickly adopted your embrace doubt mantra and signed up for my first marathon. Fast forward again, training started out fantastically as adding on miles initially felt extremely doable. However, as the long runs got longer, things started to feel a lot harder. And as race day got closer, the doubt kept getting louder. The vast majority of my runs I do on a local bike walking trail a couple of blocks from my house. During the months of training, almost daily, I would see the same runner out in the trail as well. We would always smile and wave, but I always had it in my head that at some point it would be cool to stop and chat. I had guessed that he was probably at least in his 60s, but he always looked so strong and was out there all the time. As someone who, at my best, is definitely a mid-packer, it was already a huge motivation. Finally, a couple of weeks before my marathon, after I had finished a run and was walking a bit to cool down, he runs by and stops. He asked me what I'm training for, what my goals, weekly mileage, etc. are. I ask if he's training for anything, and he casually hits me with I ran the Western States 100 3 weeks ago. My jaw drops. It turns out I had been running by Wally Hasseltine for all of these months. Wally, for those of you who don't know, we've talked about it on the show before. Legend. And almost finished Western States, not 2017, but 2016. Missed it by seconds. It was heartbreaking. It turns out I'd been running by Wally Hasseltine for all of these months. I already knew whoever it was a badass, but it turns out I didn't even know the half of it. We keep chatting about running for a few minutes. He talks a bit about the incredible list of races he's done, literally at least one a month since 1982, and just under 200 ultras. And we eventually offer each other good lucks as I see him walk into his house right up the street from me. Despite the act of running often being a solitary experience, it instantly made me feel less alone and helped to give me a last kick to get through my training and embrace doubt. I ran the San Francisco Marathon with the same embrace doubt featured on my bib. I wasn't as ready as I should have been. The last few miles were pretty painful, but I finished in just under 5 hours. Fast forward one last time, I diverged from what I went to school for, started working at a running store to try and spread as much of this awesome as possible, and never stopped running myself. I have signed up for the San Francisco Marathon again, determined to do better than last year, and have started to set my sights towards trying a 50K. Thanks for fostering this incredible community, for the constant motivation, and for everything you guys do. Sincerely, a fellow Ginger, Gabe. P.S. I have never bonded more quickly with a person than the moment a new coworker asked me if I had ever heard of the Ginger Runner. If this ever gets read on a viewer mail episode, shout out to Kelsey. This is a fantastic story. Yeah. That's why I wanted to read it, because one, it mentions Wally, and anytime we get a chance to mention Wally is a good day. I hope to get Wally on the show. I got to figure out how to get in touch with Wally. I know the means. It's just a matter of doing it. But congratulations, Gabe, getting that marathon done. The first marathon. I mean, the first big race, whether it's a half marathon, 10K, could be your first 5K. It's always exhausting, like mentally leading up to that race, because you're worried. You're worried about the distance. You're worried about nutrition. You're worried about all these elements that are within your control, but also outside of your control. Like, is my body going to cooperate? Is my training going to cooperate? All those sort of things. But the fact that you were able to just kind of stick with it, just get it done, and, you know, find bits of inspiration, things that motivate you to get to that finish line along the way are fantastic. And I have to say that this community has been the most incredible thing to come as a result of starting the Ginger Runner in 2012. The community has been incredibly supportive of everyone, all abilities, all shapes, all sizes. It doesn't matter what distance you're running, what goals you have. A goal could literally be, I want to leave the house. And this community would be there saying, we will do whatever we can to help you achieve that goal. There's just been no shaming, no hate, no negativity at all. The community is fantastic. So thanks, viewers, for continuing that trend. Occasionally we get a troll who I think just finds that there's a live stream on YouTube and will jump into the chat room and ask him to twerk. We tend to ban them quite quickly.
And punish them by you twerking instead. We actually do have Gabe in the chat room.
Hey, that's cool.
That's my story. I'm freaking
Gabe.
out.
Sweet.
Thanks for sharing your story, Gabe. It's a good one.
It's a good one. And give Wally a high five for us next time you see him, because I imagine you probably still see him on a regular basis. And I bet Wally would be pleased as punch. That's a term that he would probably use to hear about your success at the marathon, and knowing that maybe he was even a small part of that too, which is pretty cool. Moving on.
Sure, yeah.
Moving on.
Sorry. And again, if you guys have questions or anything like that, just leave them in the chat room, and we'll try and grab some questions as well throughout.
Yeah, and you can always pull them aside. Interrupt me at any time too, babe. Yeah. All right, cool. This next one comes from Shelly. Shout out to Shelly. Hey, Kim, Ethan, and the star of the Teshberry clan, Little Asparagus. That's a great way to open an email, and Gus is currently sleeping. As always, he's probably going to shake at some point during the show. I'm a pretty new viewer, but wanted to just send over a quick story from a fellow ginger. So many fellow gingers.
A lot of, yeah.
Ginger bride.
Is that what it is?
That's, yeah. I'm just going to end the show there.
Okay.
No.
And close.
Don't do that. Quick story from a fellow Jinjo. Welcome to Jinjo on the live.
You sure you're old enough to have that beard?
I'm drinking Adopio. It's good. Never, ever allow me to talk baby talk longer than what I just did. It was cringeworthy. It hurt my soul a little bit. To express my thanks to you both for everything that you do. I grew up very athletic, always playing multiple sports, and I was a competitive Irish dancer for nearly 20 years. Wow. However, I was never a runner. I tried many times to get past what I called the hating it phase of running, but time after time I would stop. For different reasons, time, knee pain, just general lack of aerobic fitness, whatever it was, I just couldn't get to the point of loving it. That was until this year. Over the past year and a half, I chose to rededicate myself to fitness, to just try and become the best version of myself and live as healthy as possible. That is, while still being kind enough to myself on those days where pizza is necessary. Pizza is the nectar of the gods, and pizza is not really nectar. It could be. I never got to the point of being largely overweight or unhealthy. I was just really uncomfortable in my own skin. So after losing 15 pounds, I decided at the beginning of this year to try again to finally reach my goal of becoming a runner. The year started how I imagined it to, not a lot of progress, and the looming thought that I would again fail at my goal. That was until March, when I stumbled across this incredible video of this ginger dude completing an incredible feat, in my opinion, the San Francisco Marathon. Then I realized, holy watermelon, she actually put watermelon in parentheses. You've not only ran and successfully completed marathons, but ultras as well. Incredible. Needless to say, I was hooked. I consumed video after video and became so inspired that I told myself that failure was no longer acceptable. I started reading running blogs and finding more YouTube videos of runners, just really trying to learn as much as I could about this sport and to find a plan that would lead to my success. And about a month ago, I completed my first 5K that I actually gave my full effort to, and it felt amazing. I finally was feeling that almost unexplainable joy that you get after completing a workout, and let me tell you, I was loving it. And I know that eventually continue on this path, I will achieve that previously unattainable title of runner. Now, I don't run far yet or fast, but I'm chipping away those miles one after another, and I finally feel confident enough in my running and motivation to continue that I've signed up for the Grand Rapids, Michigan half marathon this October. Yes. I never dreamed I'd ever feel confident enough to do this. Now, I understand this is a difficult process and there will be many hills and valleys to this journey, but I know that with the inspiration coming from you both, this Ginger will achieve her goal of not only the half marathon, but I will be able to set even greater goals for myself in the future. So I guess it wasn't really a quick story, but regardless, I just really wanted to thank you guys for the constant inspiration and really just being two incredible people that I can look up to. Lots of love from the Midwest, Shelly. I love this because this goes to what we were just talking about. This community is so fantastic. Just by tuning in live during Monday nights, where you actually get to communicate kind of on a live basis with other fellow viewers here in this chat room. Even if you're listening in an archive or the podcast version, which I promise I'm going to update, the community is there. And it doesn't matter if you are running your very first mile, your very first 5K, or if you've done thousands of 5Ks, or you're running up mountains and setting fastest known times. It doesn't matter where you are on that wide range, wide spectrum. You are a welcome member of this community, and everyone is here to support you no matter what. And I love this, Shelly, because you are a perfect example of someone who is embracing doubt, which is a mantra that I've used since I started. You didn't think you could do 5K, you did it. And now you've already gone like, screw it, I'm going to a half marathon. You're going to crush it. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. There's a lot of Patreon supporters who I talk to on a regular basis, many of which who have signed up for their first half marathon. And you know, they might have stresses or anxieties about completing that goal. But in my mind, being an outsider, I'm always able to go, put the fear away. Because there's no doubt in my mind, if you're able to complete a 5K, you've already jumped a mental hurdle. You know, if you need to go to a 10K, you can jump that mental hurdle. But literally by signing up, you've already done the hard work. You obviously got to do your training, but the hardest part is telling yourself that you can do it and sign up for it. It's like when Kim signed up for your first 100 miler. It's just kind of one of those, once you do it, that's the hardest part. You know, once you sign up, that's the hardest part. That's like mentally, because the physical side of things, obviously, you got to do the training and stuff like that. But I'm really excited for you, Shelly. Please report back on how that half marathon goes in October. I can't wait to hear the story and take a picture with the medal.
And I have to say, in Shelly's letter, she says, and I know that that eventually continuing on this path, I'll achieve that previously unattainable title of runner. You are a runner. Like anybody that runs is a runner. If you think about it, some of the greatest runners are, you know, they run 100 meters or like, you know, like it doesn't matter the distance that you're running. You're a runner if you're running. We get
this, there's this preconceived notion. We build this up in our head because there are voices telling us that I didn't complete this distance in this time, so I'm not technically a runner, or I don't run this fast, so I'm not technically a runner. I am a blatant advocate that that's bullshit. I've said that since day one of Ginger Runner. Kim and I believe that wholeheartedly. I don't believe that there is a pace that makes you a runner or a distance that makes you a runner. It is a mindset, and it is simply the act of moving faster than walking. That's honestly, to me, that's the definition of, I don't care who you are or what you do. You can walk and you can move a little bit faster than a walk, right? Just moving your legs in your jog or your run. It doesn't matter. You're a runner.
And it's about kind of owning that title. I mean, I think I struggled with it for a long time, saying like, yeah, I am a runner, because I am definitely in the back of the pack and I move a lot slower. So when I first started running, I had a hard time like saying, you know, if somebody said, "Oh, do you run? Are you a runner?" Like owning the title of, yeah, I am a runner.
You're a runner.
Yeah.
You're a runner. That's pretty much it. Peter in the chat room says, "Preach." I'm so tired of seeing so many people. Honestly, a lot of that comes from young. There's a young generation of cross country and track runners that are kind of bred to believe that runners have to accomplish certain things, or they quantify it, whether it's a pace or a distance or that sort of thing to qualify as a runner. But there's this whole subsect of humans that our bodies are all different. Our genetics are all different. So our journeys are different. That's just going to happen. Someone can train and train and train for a certain distance and then achieve that distance, and they can set their own goals. They're always in the midst of their own journey. So for someone to go, well, you're not a runner unless you do this, it's like, I don't want to spend my whole life trying to achieve whatever your definition of success is, because that all you're doing is living in someone else's castle. I'd much rather create my own definition and then break that, because there really is no definition to runner. As long as, in my mind, you're just moving faster than a walk.
Ingan in the chat room says, I'm trying to own that title, but I always feel like I have to add, but I'm really, really slow. And that's something that I'm very guilty of doing as well. And I wish I didn't do it, because, you know, like, it shouldn't really matter if you're slow or you're fast. But I feel you, because I do that all the time as well.
Where do you get more inspiration from? The person who crosses the finish line first, or the person who crosses the finish line last? To me, it's normally the person who crosses the finish line last. The people who finish the people who win races are certainly inspiring. And our show, Ginger Runner Live, features a lot of those athletes, but for a reason, because most of the guests that we bring on the show they're not just winners. They're usually winners that have some sort of story or overcame adversity, or there's something to their story that can help inspire or motivate people. But there really is something to be said about these shows that we do, where it's viewer inspiration, viewer mail, that mean more to me than anything else, because it's the real story. 20,000 people will run a marathon. One person will win. 19,999 other people will have a unique and individual story that got them to that finish line. Every single one of them finishes, but even those who don't have a unique story. Okay, I could talk about this for an hour, maybe 15 additional minutes for the Patreon post show. Who knows? Okay, moving on. Thomas. This is from Thomas. Hey, Ethan, Kim, and Gus. I love that people don't forget Gus. He's a part of the show. He's moved on to his other bed. Yes, he's a part of the family. Greetings from Cambodia, which I think is fantastic. Yeah. Congrats on the move, and hope you guys are enjoying the transition. My wife and I can attest to the great fun. Sarcasm is hard via words on the screen that comes with moving. We are about to start our transition back to the States after 2 years working here in Southeast Asia, and I couldn't be more excited for the hills, fresh air, and clean trails. I started following Ginger Runner a long time ago when the review started, and have used your 16s on many purchases. I tend to always give 16s on. Oh, yes. On very decent running shoes. If it's usually less than 16, there's some problems. If it's more, it's a rare gem. From early on, I got excited with the evolution and growth of the channel. I felt that my passion for running has coincided with the growth, so I cannot thank you enough. I really love the community that has been built and the encouragement for goal setting. After a year or so of chasing a Boston qualifier, last year I was able to pull one off while home for the holidays. Many thanks to Ginger Runner Live for getting me and continuing to get me through the treadmill runs. Now is the dreaded waiting period to see if it's far enough under the qualifying time to actually get to run, or if it's back to some more road miles. I know, woe is me. However, I switched gears and now find myself in a bit of a funny spot. A while back, I caught your Squamish 50/50 video, and it immediately went to the top of my list of things to do. Last November, my brother-in-law and I took the plunge and signed up. So here we are, 50 days out. His email came a couple of weeks ago, and I think I'm starting to feel the little pre-race anxiousness. I jumped on the St. Hal Corner 50-mile plan and modified it a bit, and I've been putting in some high-mileage weeks and back-to-back long runs, all while being chased by Cambodian street dogs, chasing tour buses into Angkor Wat, humidity, lack of traffic laws, and breathing in the sweet, sweet aroma of trash fires and exhaust. Painting a great picture here. Not to mention hitting that treadmill and seeking out stairs for some elevation change, and driving my wife crazy by walking circles around our apartment to spend ample amount of time on my feet. But I love it, all of it. We have even been blessed to see and be a part of some pretty cool running communities grown and races started while we have been here. I think that concludes my fan letter. I have contemplated sending you one for a good old 33-cent special Angkor beers to say thanks. Sorry. I have contemplated sending you one of our good old 33-cent special Angkor beers to say thanks, but I am convinced it tastes like any light beer with a touch more sweetness to it. In other words, not very good. Maybe I'll grab one of your favorite North Carolina IPAs instead, unless you want to try a Cambodian beer. My only question, and I am done, any tips or suggestions for survival of the 50/50? I guess I didn't mention this will be my first official ultra, or I guess ultras. Thanks again for everything. I cannot imagine the time and effort that goes into creating on this scale. We struggle to send out just a monthly newsletter or a blog post on their end. Cheers, and we hope to meet you guys in Squamish. Thomas.
50-50 as a first ultra. That's amazing.
But Gary has told me this after the 50-50 movie that I made. The next year, he had more people running the 50-50 as their first ultra than he had people running it who have run ultras in the past. He said the ratio was weird. I'm not going to say it's impossible because that same year, some of the finishers finished their first ultra 2 days in a row.
Right.
Well, they finished their first and their second ultra in 2 days. So it is possible. I do not recommend it. To those of you who maybe are thinking about it, I don't recommend it only because it's tough. Like it's certainly a tough course. So there's other courses that you can get your feet wet on and learn, what works for you and technical trails and all that sort of thing. But it's possible. Yeah. And I'll spend the next 5 minutes or so kind of explaining why it is possible and things that you maybe have already done right. So you won't have to worry as much, Thomas. So first of all, you are training in Cambodia where I'm guessing it's super humid. It has been hot. That alone is going to be a huge benefit to you because it's probably far more humid where you are than it is in Squamish. Squamish does get humid.
Yeah, but if he's there in
Southeast Asia. If you're like Southeast Asia, which you've stayed at, you've lived there for a while.
Very humid, yeah.
So you have got that in spades. So your body will be adjusted to the heat and being able to sweat in those temperatures and that sort of thing. So that's a huge benefit. Northwesterners do not get that ability. It's been abnormally humid this year. But in years previous, when I was training in California, which had no humidity. And that was pretty tough, like not having any humidity to train in. So that's a good thing. Second thing, you're probably training in jungle trails and probably getting some pretty good technical stuff. Squamish is not all technical. It's not beginning to end technical trails. The 50-miler starts with 6 miles on flat, groomed gravel trails. So those first 6 miles are flat. All of the elevation gain and all of the real gnarly stuff comes in the last 40, I'd say 40 miles, because there's also 3 or 4 miles towards the finish line that are flat. So it's basically 40 miles of technical trails and then 10 miles of pancake flat. Just take your time on the climbs because the climbs are pretty steep in places. So you'll just be forced to hike anyways. And
everybody is
everyone is hiking.
Everybody,
even the front of the packers.
Yeah. 99% of the people are hiking.
The people who train on those trails weekends, every day, they're also hiking the ups. They're going to run the downs faster because they're used to those technical trails. So if you're not used to super technical trails, take your time on the descents. Now, here's the secret to the 50-50. And I told everyone that I met in the last 2 years who was running the 50-50, this is the secret. Go home after the 50-mile race, go back to your hotel, lay down and eat as much food as you possibly can as early as you can. Your goal is to get to sleep as early as possible.
Or at least horizontal.
You want your feet, kick your feet up. Basically, you want your legs to recover as much as possible. Get whatever things you need. Get your compression on. I use compression sleeves. I didn't that year. I don't think I used compression leggings. I just my calf sleeves. I kicked my feet up. We ordered pizza. I had a pizza sitting on my stomach. I had slices of it. Basically, I was eating carbs and everything like that. I was able to wake up the next morning before everyone else. I got out of bed and tested my legs. They felt okay. They did not feel great, but they felt okay. Tired. And your job is to just show up at the 50K start line. That's it.
Yeah, because you hear around the finish line of the first day, you hear a lot of people kind of going, I don't know if I'll, that was tough. I don't know if I'll show up tomorrow morning. And I think what I was going to say, I think one of the biggest things is just go to the start line the next morning. Even if you are like, I'm not going to run this, this isn't happening, just go and just start.
Just all you got to do is just get to that start line, because if you get to the start line, you're going to start. And
you're going to get excited and
you will most likely finish that race. Very few people weren't able to finish the 50K after the 50 mile. If they started the 50K, they finished.
Right.
It just might have taken them a long time. It's going to depend on the heat and stuff like that, because some people got wrecked the first day because it was really hot and they pushed themselves a little too hard, just, trying to keep up. And you're already used to heat, so I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. That to me is the secret of that race, is just showing up for the 50K. The 50 miler is hard enough, but if you have the goal set on the 50-50, just make getting up and getting that start line your goal. In my mind, the 50 miler, I had such a rough, I had 18 miles of just terrible. I felt terrible. They were so early and took up hours of my day. I was so thankful because that slowed me down by feeling, you remember in the video, I was nauseous for hours, 18 miles from mile 6 to
early on
24. And I was super nauseous and just felt like bloated and felt terrible. It forced me to walk and hike and really slowly jog. And that energy that I saved during that period was essentially saved for the next day. And that to me was a lesson in like, oh, if I had run the entire 50 miler like I had anticipated, I maybe wouldn't have been able to complete the 50K. You never know, but it was nice to be able to kind of relax. So just take your time during the 50 miler. You are in no race at all. Your race is to just show up for the 50K.
And you'll get so much support from everybody knowing that you're a 50-50 runner too. Like, because the bibs are different, so people can tell you're a 50-50 runner. So let a little bit of that carry you, you know.
So that's all the time I'll spend on that. It's a very specific race that won't apply to everybody. Not many people get a chance to do the 50-50 because it sells out almost immediately. It's well worth it if you ever get the chance to set a really difficult goal for yourself. Do it. I love it. It's a great race. I'll come up with something like it someday. Maybe something super challenging. I'd like that. Last one, I think, for this show. I think we'll be able to get to this one. Comes from Mike. Hello, Gus and Kimberly. Oh, and Mr. Ginger Runner. My name is Mike, and I have started watching your videos and following your running journeys only recently in months. I want to thank you all for what you do for us recreational runners. I believe I can call myself a runner. My story, I believe I can call myself a runner. My story is neither special.
Sorry.
That's okay. It was not an earthquake. My story is neither special nor spectacular. Growing up, I was an athlete playing mostly team sports, including hockey and soccer. Nice. However, as time went on, I started to lose interest in all things active due to personal family reasons. By the age of 21, I stopped being active in any way, shape, or form. Fast forward 20 years and a friend's suggestion that we should sign up for a fun 5K OCR. OCR is obstacle course race. That was about 4 or 5 months away. Not having run at all in decades, I decided that I should actually do some running before actually doing the race. I started slow with walk-run programs, and by the summer was able to actually run my 5K comfortably. After the OCR, I was thinking to myself, now what? I could have just returned to doing nothing and sitting on the couch all day. However, I felt so good out there running, and I decided to push on and train some more and ran my first 10K race last September. After that, kept increasing mileage and speed every week and month until November, when a work accident left me with a badly burned right foot and unable to wear a shoe for a good month. And then the snow came, and with that, the excuses. Anyway, started running again after the new year and did 2 more 10K races, the Sun Run in Vancouver and the Run for Water in Abbotsford, BC. A bunch of us did the fun 5K OCR again this summer and have another coming up in July on the 15th, which has already passed. So I hope that he finished. I'm assuming we'll find out here. It's called the Rugged Maniac. I'm currently training for 2 half marathons, September and November, with the 10K race squeezed in between them. Maybe another half on my birthday in October. My plan is to train harder this fall and winter and do my best and do my first trail race in February called the Run Ridge Run, and then my first full marathon, the BMO in Vancouver, in May. I know big plans for a slow runner like myself, but when I watch you guys and what you do and see that hundreds and thousands of people on social media doing what I want to do, I feel like I want to be a part of that, part of something bigger. Running makes me feel good about myself. I do struggle with personal confidence issues stemming from my family problems in my younger years, so I take things very slow and methodically just to ensure that I can actually accomplish them. When I watch your videos and see your pictures, I want to try harder and run faster to run like you, which will quite frankly never happen. On another note, I create sports apparel items for a living, and in my spare time, I have made something that I would like you to have. I'm not trying to promote my company. There are no makers marks on the items. I just want to say thank you for doing what you do. If there's any way for me to send a package to you, please let us know. Otherwise, it will just sit in the office. I apologize for rambling for so long. Best regards, Mike. Mike, I really appreciate the email. Your story I think we'll reach a lot of people in the sense that I think a lot of people struggle with the idea, and we kind of already talked about it tonight with labels, that people don't consider themselves runners or beginners, or they're mid-pack runners, or maybe they're not worthy or that sort of thing. But we're all just, again, we're all a part of the same community. We're all on a different path, a different journey. It's so easy to compare ourselves to each other. And I look at this story and go, damn, dude, you're running 2 halves this fall, plus a 10K, plus a 5K. You already,
and
I'm
that's
like,
after,
that's awesome.
And that's after the burned foot and then not even being able to wear a shoe and then the terrible winter you guys had. Like this, that's great.
You open your email by saying that your journey is not spectacular or special. In my mind, I'm going, that's pretty damn special, because you recovered from an injury that sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
But you were able to do all of these events, plus sign up for other events, being able to train for, that's great. That's amazing, man. So Mike, thank you very much. I really appreciate that email. And you're doing some pretty amazing things. So keep it going, and please keep us posted. We'd love to hear back to kind of find out what happened. I'm assuming you're going to crush all the races, including
and the BMO marathon is so good. Such a good one.
Such a good one. We love the BMO. I haven't done the Sun Run. I've been wanting to do that, but it's what, 60,000 people or something?
It's insane.
It's a 10K?
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I
think it's the largest road race in Canada.
Yes.
The BMO is one that I would go back to road running. Yeah. To do the BMO again at some point.
Maybe that's the one that we should think about doing. Maybe
it's already sold out. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably is. It does sell out quite often. That's it for emails. Oh man, I'm so sorry for those of you who did not get to your email. There are a lot that I did not get a chance to read tonight. I apologize. We'll save them for the next viewer mail episode. If you have a story that you would like to share, whether it's your personal journey, your story, or maybe a race, or something like that, we'd love to hear about it. Just send an email to thegingerrunner@gmail.com and use the subject viewer mail, and that'll help filter it into that folder. And I like to save those for each time that we do this show. What's going on in the chat room before we kind of move into the end of the show here?
Jeremy says, Ginger, come do Dopey Challenge. We want to do that.
We want to do that
so badly, but it's so expensive.
It's so expensive. So yeah, it'd be great. We no longer live in California, so we no longer live near Anaheim, so we no longer have Disney passes. So now we're like, well, crap. How do we get our Disney fix? We wish we knew someone that worked there that could be like, I got you covered, guys.
Because it's so
expensive. A Goofy Challenge is one that I really want to do. Is that right? Or is it Dopey? Which one's all of them?
I think it's a Dopey.
5K, 10K, half and full?
I think so. I could be like really, really wrong. But I think.
Yeah. Ethan, you can stay in my camper. Yeah, nice, Jeff. That's actually probably a good solution. I will say that Disney Resorts in Florida just announced their new illustrious cabins. I don't know why I'm doing this.
What were you doing?
Like popping my collar, buckling my tie. Those aren't words that go together. They announced their new elite resort that is Pacific Northwest themed. And we got a video sent to us that was like, hey, look at all of our new Pacific Northwest themed locations in Florida at Disney World. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. You look at it and you go, those aren't very Pacific Northwest themed. That's like someone opened up a magazine of Pacific Northwest theme and just decided to put like wood on it. It's basically what they did. It's all very generic. And it's also like $2,000 a night. Yeah. So we're going for a month, babe. Surprise!
A new car.
A new car.
Dave in the chat room says, Ginger Runner, your San Francisco marathon videos inspired me to make it my first marathon yesterday. I loved it.
Nice.
That's a great marathon.
It's such a good marathon.
From what I saw, the bridge was all fogged in, so people didn't really get.
That's happened in years that we've run it. I'm sorry. Do you not remember it being fogged in?
Do you not remember me starting like 4 corrals behind you and it being like sunny and hot by the time I got to the bridge?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Who are you?
I don't know.
Who are you?
Buckle your tie. Buckle your tie. I wanted to give a big shout out to Jorge Maravilla, who we have not been able to get on the show. His schedule, basically, he works. He's co-owner of the San Francisco Running Company. One of the kindest guys you'll ever meet in the sport of running. Because he's not only a road runner, he's also a trail runner, ultra runner. He's one of the very first experiences I ever had with an elite during my first ultra. It was at the San Francisco, the North Face, San Francisco Marin Headlands 50K. This is in 2012. And I remember my last 3 miles were also his last 3 miles. And we're at that aid station. He had already run. I'm at mile, it was a short course. So I was at mile 29 and he was at mile 48. I'm sorry, 20. I would have been at 26 because 29 is the finish line. And he would have been at 46. So he comes running through the aid station, sipping Coke and like singing songs and asking about hamburgers. And it was a joke. It was amazing. It was hilarious. Really, really nice guy. But he won the San Francisco Marathon yesterday outright, which I think is bonkers. So big shout out to Jorge. That's it. Were you going to say something?
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. You breathed like you were about to say something. We are going to do a post show here with our Patreon supporters. And in the Patreon post show tonight, we're going to talk specifically about GRVR, some of the specific details, how Patreon supporters will get first access to register for GRVR, all that good stuff. So we're going to see the Patreon supporters in just a couple of moments after the show ends for the post show. For those of you who might be asking, one, what is Patreon? What is that all about? Basically, it's a monthly subscription service. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to all of our post shows, including our guests. We'll do interviews with the guests one-on-one, so you guys get a chance to actually interact with them on a little bit more intimate level. And depending on what level you join at, you get additional perks. So, you know, music at the $3 level, $10 levels, you get monthly chats, and it just goes up from there. And with GRVR, sorry, for Patreon, if you are not a member, consider patreon.com/thegingerrunner. It's a subscription service. Go check it out. But we'll see all Patreon supporters here in just a couple of minutes. But GRVR stands for Ginger Runner Virtual Run. Basically, last year was our first virtual run. I wanted to create an event that people around the globe could participate in. I wanted it to be non-geographical in the sense of maybe someday we'll have a race hosted somewhere, but I didn't want people to have to travel across the globe to come do an event. So I was like, a virtual run would be cool, but how do we make it actually worth people's while? Because virtual runs to me were kind of a gimmick, and you know, like 5K color run, virtual run, where you can do it wherever you live. It had to be worth it. So to me, that meant swag. That meant great gear that went along with it. So you got your money's worth and then some. Last year, we managed to make T-shirts, medals, patches, all cool stuff. We're doing it again this year. We got new design, new T-shirts coming, a whole bunch of new stuff that you'll be able to get. And we have 2 versions of GRVR this year. There'll be a 2-hour version, and there'll be a 4-hour version. So on the same day, October 7th, 2017, it's coming up pretty quick. October 7th, it's a Saturday. Everyone around the globe who participates in GRVR will pick their time that they want to start within those 24 hours, and they'll run for 2 hours, or they'll run for 4 hours. And we'll have all sorts of prizes and trophies to give away on that Monday following. We'll be doing all sorts of contests and stuff like that. Lots of stuff will be given away. But the registration for that will open this week. If you're a Patreon supporter, you will get that even sooner. Basically, I'm hoping to get it live tonight. We'll talk about that in the post show with the Patreon supporters. That's pretty much it. So get ready, because Ginger Runner Virtual Run.
People are freaking out. No, that's the day before the Chicago Marathon. 2 days before Chicago Marathon. People are upset that it's before the Chicago Marathon.
If the Chicago Marathon's on a Monday, that sucks. Sorry, guys.
It's also the weekend before Canadian Thanksgiving.
That's true. That's true.
Deb wants you to move your head so she can see the picture behind you.
That's me, Kim, Destiny, and Gary Robbins coming to the finish line of my very first 100-miler, Cascade Crest. I love that photo. Glenn Takayama took that photo, and my parents made it for me for Christmas. A big, big format, and it made me cry when I opened it up. It's pretty amazing. If it's 2 days, Chicago.
That was on a Sunday.
Yeah, so it's the day before. And what we'll talk about it in the post show, but there in the past we've been able to
don't make any rash decisions.
No rash decisions. Chicago Marathon is just going to have to change their day. That
was a good laugh.
It was a good laugh. I'm sorry. I know that there's going to be 40,000 people running the Chicago Marathon on October 8th, but right now we're talking October 7th. That's what we're looking for.
It almost doesn't matter which day we pick. There's always going to be some sort of conflict or somebody doing a race.
There will always be conflict.
Yeah.
All the details in their finality will be revealed this week. So take whatever you see listed online. That is what it's going to be. What I just said is essentially what it is right now. But whatever goes online this week will be official. That's it for this main show, guys. Again, those of you who have submitted your stories, thank you so much. We love reading them. We love reading them on air. And we hope that you who are watching or who are listening are inspired by them and maybe go out there and challenge yourself to do something pretty cool.
And if you guys have a story of your own that you want to share, make sure you email it in for the next time, because we're going to try and do more of these shows. And the email,
thegingerrunner@gmail.com, and subject, viewer mail. Very simple. Just obey those rules and it will go to the right folder. Otherwise, it could go to spam or bombard the inbox, which tends to get ignored because there are hundreds of emails that get in there that get mismatched and stuff like that. Again, a huge thank you to Mr. Brian Sands for continuing to support the shows through the month of July. That's fantastic. Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate that. And please keep us posted on your long run this weekend and the marathon coming up.
Yes.
I also want to make sure that I shout out our top tier Patreon supporters: Matt, Darren, David, Liz, Lovett, Ellen, Thomas, Ross, Chris, Cheyenne, and Eric for the month of July. It was awesome to have all of you guys and gals on board to support this show, to support the channel. I will be sure to do more shout outs to you guys to say thank you. Many of these Patreon supporters whose name I just read have supported for years.
Since the very beginning. Yeah.
Which is awesome. They've become really good friends. I look forward to chatting with them every month, if not more frequently, because one of them actually lives here in town, so I get a chance to meet up with them, go for runs, stuff like that. So there's so many thanks that I owe to them. It's a wonderful thing that we've been able to do this and again have it be supported by the viewers. So if anything, this show is always a tribute to you, the viewers, and I hope you guys enjoy them. I think that's it.
We'll do the post show, talk a little bit more about GRVR, and maybe take some questions, since we didn't really do any questions during the main show.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Patreon, we'll see you guys in just a couple of seconds. The post show link has already been posted to Patreon, so go ahead and find it there. If you would like to join that, just go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner, and you can find the link there. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
Cool. All right, guys. We'll see you next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. More Ginger Runner. Oh, there's the new trailer dropping this week for the Barkley film.
Never heard of it.
Yep. You'll see. All right, guys. See you next week. Ginger Runner.